Engineers are expected to begin work later tonight on building 2 pontoon bridges over roads flooded by the River Lavant, which broke its banks again during the night. The problem is refusing to go away because of the incessant rainwater flowing off the South Downs into the River Lavant and towards the city. Normally the river would carry the water away towards the sea, but the heavy rainfall has lifted the water table to 20 metres above normal levels, the highest since records began in 1836, causing thousands of gallons to pour into the city. The east of Chichester and outlying areas have been the worst affected. 2 major roads, the A27 and A259, are under 2 feet of water. To try to divert the water, the fire service and council have installed miles of pipes to the west and south of the city. Well, it's an operation which has so far cost an estimated £1 million, and it looks set to continue. Our reporter Steve Humphrey has been following the efforts of Chichester, very much a city under siege.
The battle against the worst floods seen in the Chichester area this century is far from over. In the Hornet area of the city, some roads are still under several feet of water. More rain will just make it worse for the people who've had homes and shops flooded several times already over the past week.
Hopeful on the one hand, and if I can say it, be contradictory, pessimistic on another, but it really is mixed emotions at the moment. We just don't know.
Against all the odds, shopkeepers have been trying to stay open for business. Publican Eddie Huxley has had his cellar flooded repeatedly.
It's been a nightmare. Lack of sleep, staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, clearing the high tides, making sure nothing was coming through, getting up early in the morning to check that there's no more water in the cellar.
It frightened me to death, and at night time I can't sleep because we've got all the engines going. And
with no let-up in sight, the army has now been brought in to build pontoon bridges over 2 flooded main roads, which will ease the travel problems that prompted the county council to close schools in the Chichester area today. Royal Engineers from Maidstone and Aldershot will put up one bridge over the flooded motel roundabout to the northeast of the city and another over flooding on the A259 Bognor Road. There isn't a bridge long enough in Britain to span the flooding on the A27 at West Hampnet, but the road is still being used by heavy goods vehicles. In the city centre, the fire services are continuing to pump millions of gallons of water through pipelines. A dam on the bank of the River Lavant has also been reinforced this afternoon. But the big fear this evening is that buildings on the river bank could collapse.
The situation has been critical now for the past 24 hours. It's not improving at the moment.
With gale force winds and one of the highest tides of the year, it's bad news, particularly for the army and the emergency services in Chichester, who are just starting to get to grips with the floods.
As Chichester braces itself for more heavy rain and the possibility of more flooding, the army has been working to relieve the worst of the city's traffic problems. Royal Engineers have constructed bridges over 2 flooded roads, one on the West Hampnet roundabout, the other on the A259 Bognor Road.
It's exactly what we're trying to do. It's actually a great benefit to us as well as the citizens locally, because it's bloody good practical training. People have had to stop what they're doing, think out a totally new problem, put it into action and see the results. And that's all good.
120 army engineers from Aldershot and Maidstone worked through the night to put up the bridges, normally used in wartime to take tanks over rivers. 12,000 sandbags were used to direct a torrent of water over the main roads being bridged. One of the biggest concerns now is that the flooding may have caused structural damage to buildings backing onto the River Lavant. Emergency struts have been put in to shore up the wall of the QuickFit depot. Shopkeepers in other parts of Chichester who've been unaffected by the flooding say people shouldn't be put off from visiting the city.
Obviously it's going to be difficult from the people on the eastern side of the city. They may have to take alternative routes and possibly go to alternative city shopping areas, but I think everybody else on the other sides of town will be able to shop as normal.
This evening the fire service is continuing to pump millions of gallons of water from the city centre. Detailed plans have been drawn up in case tonight's rain brings more flooding.
We've got the RNLI actually up here in Chichester with their boats in case of problems. We have other voluntary organisations like Raynet. We have been inundated with calls from the public offering assistance in terms of their skills.
Tonight, people in parts of Chichester and the outlying areas know that once again their fate hinges on the weather.
the dam protecting property in the Hornet area of the city. Fire crews have increased their pumping operation as the River Lavant continues to rise. Elsewhere, 7 people were forced to leave their homes in the village of Singleton. More rain, high winds and a high tide are expected tonight.
Lifeboatmen moved into the village of Singleton this afternoon, offering to evacuate those cut off by floods.
We've done the whole street now.
With the level rising by several inches, 7 families left this morning and others fear they may be forced to follow.
Like I say, it's been gradually coming in about an inch sort of just above the fireplace. They've been keeping it out, and just today it's just got come right up.
So it's gone up about 5 inches since yesterday.
Is it getting worse and worse?
Yes, it is.
Fire crews are touring villages north of Chichester. As the rain sweeps down the hills, more flooding is inevitable. It's also seeping into the centre of Chichester, threatening to cause more flooding in the Hornet area. They've been on a knife edge all day. The River Lavant is at its highest level since Sunday after half an inch of rainfall. But they're pumping out 5 million gallons a day, reducing the risk and allowing businesses to operate as normal.
The levels are higher, but we're pumping more. There's an awful lot more water to come, which we feel we can cope with. But the quiet and calm you see now is actually a controlled and managed situation because of all the efforts that people are putting in.
Extra sandbags have been ordered in case they have to build a temporary canal through the Hornet. Sandbags are in great demand. This family just outside Chichester is turning out 300 an hour. Family and friends are working round the clock to meet demand. 200,000 are needed for homes and businesses.
We've got lorries coming with sand. We're expecting in at least 250 tonnes today. And sandbags going out, well, we're just trying to keep up with as many as we can.